How are you doing, folks? Well, today I am going to show you how to perform an oil change on a Toyota Hybrid, specifically an Auris, and this one here is the second generation. But what I will show you should apply to other Toyota Hybrids as well too. So first things we are going to need are 0W20 engine oil and an oil filter with the correct O-rings and a sump washer. You are also going to need a 14mm socket to remove the sump plug and a ratchet, or you can use a ring spanner if you want to, but either way it has to be 14mm. You're going to need an oil filter wrench. If you have the appropriate proper Toyota tool, better again, but this will do the job. And you're going to need an old screwdriver or prying tool of some description to pry the plastic clips from underneath the car to remove the access panel, which you will see in a little while. You will also need a suitable catch tray to catch the old engine oil in, and a way of disposing of the old engine oil properly. You might also like to use a suitable measuring jug for filling the engine with oil. You are also going to need a jack and axle stand to support the car securely using suitable suspension mounting points or sturdy points underneath the car. So just be careful where you're jacking it, okay? You'll see there in both cases I have the axle stand under the lower wishbone, and the jack is actually underneath a suspension mount or a subframe mount over there as well. So both nice and safe. Finally, you're going to need a pair of gloves and a pair of goggles. The next thing we need to do is we need to remove this panel, which is to the right hand side of the car. There's the front grille, so if you look underneath you'll see there's a panel here which is kind of a hinged piece, and there are two little popper clips there which we need to remove in order to access the oil drain plug and the filter, which are both there. In order to remove these clips, what you need to do is you need to actually pry out the centre part. So just get a screwdriver or something along those lines. This is my prying screwdriver, which I keep for good use. You just basically pry that down. You could use a long nose pliers or something like that as well too, but it's just a trick, and then you'll see that the whole assembly comes out, and that allows you to pull this panel down. When you have all the poppers removed, there's another one over here, so there is actually 3 in total. There's the other one. So we just take that out as well too. Just be careful when you're working under the car that you're wearing goggles, because dirt is likely to fall into your eyes if you're not. Okay, so I removed the I just loosened the sump plug with my socket and ratchet off camera, just because it's a little bit easier doing it two-handed. So there's the oil coming out. So leave that to drain, and we can have a look at the filter now. The filter is that big black thing there. So we need to remove that, and that is where our oil filter wrench comes in, because we'll be able to actually grab that filter housing and twist it off. Now you will expect obviously that oil is going to pour out of there when you do remove it. Okay, so that's the oil filter wrench on there now anyway. So basically what you do is you just essentially you just twist that until it's tight, and away you go. And it's a bit of a faff, to be honest with you, while you're lying on your back doing this. This is the type of job where if you had a ramp it'd be handy, but nothing's ever easy, is it? So anyway, you twist it off in anti-clockwise direction, standard enough, and the plastic housing comes off. You replace the paper element inside and the O-rings, which I'll show you now in a moment, and then pop it all back together and fill it with oil. So let's keep going. Okay, so this is what's actually inside the oil filter housing. So when you take it off, that's your element. So it's not like the old spin-on oil filters where it's a metal canister that you replace the whole thing. This actually you just replace the paper element inside, which to be honest with you is better in a way. Better for the environment. Toyota doing their bit, God bless them, you know. And there's the O-ring on the outside, so take the O-ring off because we get a new O-ring in the kit. So here we have our new filter. I know it looks slightly different, but I'm going to imagine that's just because it's a different brand. It's a blueprint one, and the one that would have been in it would be Toyota genuine. Anyway, the blueprint ones are grand. They did the job fine. And we have 2 O-rings here. It seems we only need a larger one, so the smaller of the two doesn't seem to serve a function. And it also comes with this little plastic yoke here, which I don't actually know what it does either. So let's just get rid of them. Grant, right, okay, so that's that sorted. So now we pop our new filter in, goes in there like so, and we put our O-rings on, well, our O-ring on, the larger one on the outside. So the other thing that's important to do is to just wet the O-ring in a little bit of the old engine oil will do fine. Just wet the O-ring before you put it on. And the other very, very important thing that I didn't mention yet, but it's vitally important, is that you drop your oil filter wrench into the bucket of oil under the car. Ah, yeah. Well, it's lucky I have a parts washer, isn't it? So now we have our new filter installed, our new O-ring installed, and what we need to do now is we need to just go under the car and pop the drain plug back in and give it a nip up. Babysitting duties. You know, sometimes these things are a spectator sport. He's happy enough. Yeah, so let's pop the filter back in and we will just nip it up. Now, the same thing applies to the filter as it does to the drain plug. You do not need to stitch it. Okay, so the oil filter housing itself is just hand tight there now at the moment, but that is fully home. So I tightened that up. You do not need to stitch these, okay? Just pull them up, you know, I mean, tighten them, but don't swing out of them, okay? It does not need to be swung out of. Same with this, okay? Just tighten it. To be honest with you, a little more than hand tight is absolutely fine. To be honest with you, if you've got strong hands, hand tight is probably enough, but just a little nip and that will do the job. So I'm going to do that off camera because it's kind of tricky to well, I'll try and do it here, but basically the way this works is it just goes over here and then you just tighten it up and then you loosen it say a half a turn to twist it back. And you'll know when it's home, but don't when it's home, don't swing out of it. You know, just pull it up nicely and then that will do you. Okay, so that's home now, so literally just to tighten it up the last little bit, you can see just 2 fingers, just a little pull like that. You don't see me bracing my foot against the cross member underneath there and just swinging out of it, okay? And I know people do that because I've had the misfortune of trying to change the oil filter afterwards. It is not necessary, and it's not necessary with this. If you end up swinging out of this, you're going to strip the threads out of the aluminium sump, or you're going to damage something, warp something, or you're just going to crush the seal. So don't do that. So finally, the last thing to do now is just to wipe the excess oil off everything underneath here and to pop our clips back in. So I'll just show you how the clips go back in now in a second. If you've gotten this far, you probably can figure out how these go back in fairness. The pin basically splays those 4 legs out and stops them from pulling out. Well, at least that's the theory anyway. Given the fact there's a couple of them missing underneath, would suggest they don't work very well. But anyway, suffice it to say, you just you pop the pin in there with the hole, and then that's it. You just push it back in by hand. You just have to make sure the pin is pulled all the way out, because otherwise you won't be able to get it back in. So same situation over here. The one that was removed from the hole here. And that's the job. So now our plastic cover is back on, and what we will do now is we will fill the engine with oil. It's fair to say that the 0W20 stuff is expensive bloody engine oil, to be honest with you, which is kind of annoying. But you can economise by doing the job yourself, which is what we're doing here today. Now, you'll notice that the car is now off its axle stands and jack, because we want it to be on the level when we're doing this. You can try and find the specs and find out exactly how much oil to put in and put in exactly that amount. But what we're going to do today is we're going to just top it up until it's at the full mark on the dipstick. So what I've done now is I've filled up my little measuring jug to 1 litre, and actually it's 1 quart. I'll just top it up another little bit, just for the sake of accuracy here. This oil is seriously runny stuff. 0W20 is very, very light oil. It's almost like turbine engine oil. Ask me how I know. Anyway, I will start filling this up, and after maybe 2 litres, we'll check our oil and see if we're even showing up on the dipstick. I would think this engine takes about 3.5 litres, but that's just a guess at this moment in time. But at least we'll know after the job is done, and plus you'll have a little bit of spare engine oil left over. Okay, what I've done now is I've put 1 litre of engine oil in, and I'm just looking underneath the car and making sure that oil isn't pouring out underneath, or that we haven't done something silly like forget to put the sump plug in. Just make sure you recheck that kind of thing. Okay, so after 2 litres of oil went in, there was still nothing showing up on the dipstick. So I put a 3rd litre in, and I've waited a minute or so just for the oil to get down into the sump, because it has to work its way down through channels inside in the engine. And we're going to just have a look here and see. And you can see it is just at the minimum mark on that now. So I'm going to throw another half a litre in, and we're going to see how we're looking there now. I think it'll probably take another litre actually now at this stage, but let's throw the half a litre in, see what mark we're at, and then we can go from there. Okay, so in the end we've put in 4 litres of oil, and we are just shy of the full mark on the dipstick. Let's see if we can get a... It's quite hard to see, but it's there all the same. So yeah, we're just shy of the full mark. And yeah, so what we can do is now we can start the engine, and we'll just run it for a minute or so, and then we can turn it off and check our oil level again and see how we're looking. Before you start the engine, just remember to put the oil filler cap back on, because you do not want to spray engine oil all over the place. So yeah, we'll just do a little bit of a tidy up here. And obviously the thing with hybrids is they're not always inclined to start when exactly you want them to, but this engine is stone cold, so it should do. So we'll sit into it and start it and let it run for a little while, and we'll probably let it run for as long as it wants to run for, and then we can check our oil level again. And then what we'll do is we'll reset the service indicator light. Okay, everything's powered up. Turn that off. And we'll put it into... Okay. I didn't actually have to change the mode at all in the end. I was going to put it into power mode down here just to make sure the engine started, but it did it of its own accord anyway. It just took a bit of time about it. So it's ticking over lovely. Yeah, it should turn itself off now in a minute. Go and have a listen. They're a nice sounding engine, all said. Okay, so it's gone into EV mode there now, so that's kind of what we were waiting for. So what we'll do is we'll turn the car off, and we'll just check our oil level again after a minute or so. Again, just waiting for the oil to return back to the sump, and then we'll go in and just reset our service indicator light. Okay, so the service warning is reset. I did it through the Carista app. There's plenty of information about that available if you just Google it. I'm not going to get into how to use specific apps. There are other ones available as well too. So it worked for me, and that's done. And the car has now had an oil change. So job's a good one. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I shall see you in a future video. Talk to you soon.